Hello everybody, Crystal, also known as the Sassy Medium here. I am doing a series about shadow work, not only explaining what shadow work is, but I want to take a step further and you agree to follow along, not for me, for you. We all have a shadow part, a shadow self. Depending on how big it is, that depends on all of the things that have happened in your life. What I'm doing in my Facebook group called Spiritual Wisdom, starting this week, starting right now with this video, ground zero, basically, is all month long for November. I want us all to focus on our shadow selves, on chipping away at some of the things that we bury and just want to feel better. So if you're wanting to feel better, if you're wanting to do some shadow work and you just don't know how, hi, I'm your shadow work, maybe not expert, but I'm willing to take this journey with you so that we all can feel better, okay? We all have shadow work that needs to be done. Let's do it together, okay? It is a very personal experience. I suggest getting a journal, getting a notebook specifically for your shadow work. I have one as well. There aren't very many forms to actually do shadow work out there that you'll find. Most of them are journal prompts. And while they do help, I feel that you need more stuff. So I want to talk about that. And I put this class together. I did it in my group the other day, last week, I think. And it was really good. I never want to charge for this because I feel that we all need this help. So if you're wanting to join in for yourself and see how much better you can feel putting in the effort to yourself, which is it's a hard task to ask you to do because we normally do not put in the work for ourselves, and that is why our shadow selves can be so big. So I'll be reading from my notes here today. So what is shadow work? Shadow work is your shadow self is the side of you that you often hide from others and sometimes even from yourself. You may hide how you really feel about something because you may feel that's too harsh. Sorry, my cats. That's too harsh. That's too mean. I shouldn't feel that. I shouldn't think that way. Well, you just push down the shadow part of yourself. I want you to get to the point where you understand that your shadow self isn't something to be hidden. It's to be worked with and walking side by side with you, not something that you push back and keep it behind you. 1 second. Okay, so Carl Jung, or Jung, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but Carl Jung, J-U-N-G, was a renowned Swiss psychologist, and he made shadow work a focal point of his career. He firmly believed in the shadow self, and that we hide it, and that we don't work with it, okay? According to him, our shadow is the side of us that our ego does not identify with, okay? It is the darker side of our personality. Also, if you have, sorry, I'm just running my cats. They are going nuts behind the scenes, so I had to try to calm them down. Put one in one room and one in the other, right? Okay. So you definitely want to honor your shadow self and face it, okay? So what are some things that you're pushing down? What are some things that you have difficulty facing? Now, this also has to do with trauma as well. Okay, this is a big part of shadow work. So if you have childhood or trauma at all, from childhood, teenage years, adulthood, if you have trauma, that also adds in to your shadow self. Because what happens with trauma? I can speak to that. I'm very open about my story in my life. So, me having been all kinds of different trauma, all kinds of different abuse, that makes you feel less than. It makes you feel not important, not loved, da, 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 right? And so all of that creates these dark, deep emotions. Even anger. Anger is one that we all love, especially empaths and spiritual people, and very kind people. When you have anger come up, the first thing you want to do is push that down. Oh, no, no, I can't be angry. I can't, that's not me, but you're denying part of yourself. It is you. You need to understand your anger and understand where it comes from, right? So, the first thing that we're going to do for this week, all right, so I want to do a few things this month with shadow work. I want to introduce you to what it is, do some work, do some different types, different ways to work through your shadow self. I also want to do some inner child work as well, healing the inner child. This is something I am incredibly passionate about. As a Reiki master, with Reiki, you usually just focus on the chakras and everything, but I have been called to do more in my healing. So in my private session, my private healing sessions for the last few years now, I have been incorporating shadow work and inner child healing and reconnection. And I have found that doing that on top of it has helped people heal at such a bigger rate. Okay, so I would say that the benefits of dealing with it all is really going to help you the most. Like, you can go to counseling and it's great, but it's one piece. Yeah. And a lot of times you're not dealing with your shadow self. Okay, you're just talking about the past is basically what it is, and they kind of add their little 2 cents in, but you're basically just going over and talking about it, but you're not really like fixing it. Okay, sometimes you do. Okay, I'm an advocate for therapy, I am, but you need more. Okay, if therapy was working for all of us 100%, then we wouldn't all be so depressed. We wouldn't be all angry. We wouldn't, you know what I mean? So it's taught me that we need more than one modality to heal our soul. Okay? And shadow work and working on the inner child is a part of that. So, so we've established that we have unpleasant sides, right? Therefore, there's no need to feel guilty about it. We all have it. This isn't something that a majority of the population have, or only certain people have it. No, we all have it. This is something that we all have. So there's no need to feel guilty or alone. You aren't alone in this journey, okay? Together, you and I, okay? Let's reveal your darker sides, the part of you that we could call that disgusting side, the side that nobody wants to deal with or talk to, the jealousy, the anger, the rage. So first, I'm going to need you to take a slow, deep breath. Let's get connected, right? And do that again. Take another deep breath. One more. Let's slow everything down. Deep breath in and release. Now I want you to think, okay, what are your expectations? If you're going to take this journey with me for the next month, what are your expectations? What are your goals? Where do you see yourself? You can't be all fixed and healed in 1 month. No, nobody can. But what are some goals that are realistic? Would you like to have more understanding of the shadow self, of your shadow self? Would you like to be able to work in some areas of it? Whatever your goal is, okay? What are your expectations and goals? Then I want you to ask yourself one question. Get pen and paper out for this one. Who are you? It's an easy question. And then it's not. But it gets you started up here, okay? Have you ever sat down to wonder who you truly are? Perhaps in some moment of silence, you might have attempted to reflect on a bad decision, a costly mistake, or a regrettable choice of words that you might think, are you different from everyone else? Why are those mistakes repeating themselves? Why does it feel like I'm stuck? The guilt from the impulses you can't control, the guilt that stems from those moments of fragility when it seems you have no control. If you've ever been there, okay, which many of us have, I have, then you're beginning to find yourself, all right? You are beginning to know you. Your path to personal growth and living your life to the fullest will start from here, knowing who you are. And I want you to really think about who you are. I'm kind, I'm loving, but you have to do it with the good and the bad, the light and the dark. We are not just, especially if you're an empath and you're like, I'm a light worker and all of that. You may be a light worker, but we all have dark within us, and we have to honor both sides, the duality within us. When we do not, we do ourselves a disservice, always. And that's called pushing back the shadow. I just, in my group, Spiritual Wisdom, just put a meme up that really illustrates the shadow self so much. So if you're in that group and you're listening to this from the group, great. If not, go check it out. Spiritual Wisdom on Facebook. All right, so let's continue with an honest statement. You also consist of an ugly part. Yes, we all do. It's the part of you, it's a part of who you are, and if you're indeed serious about living your life to the fullest and becoming a better person, you will be open to meeting this dark, unpleasant part of you. All right, so we're going to try a simple exercise, okay? This is where we're starting. So if you don't have a notebook, it's okay. Just grab pen and paper, all right? Try this simple exercise before you and I go any further. So with if you have a pencil, it's even greater. So with a pencil, write down some negative things about you that you're only recently coming to realize. Don't worry about how many you'll have to write, just write. Write down some unpleasant things about you which you have known for a long time and have struggled to deal with until now. Write as many as you can, okay? Look at what you've written and reflect upon them for about 2 minutes. Okay, this is part of the work, so I'm giving you the homework or whatever, the work to do. All right. So, were you able to do it? Are you able to do it? You can even pause the video, do it, and then listen to me again. Were you able to do it? Were you able to tap in to the beautiful sides of yourself and the negative? Or could you only tap into the negative and it was hard for you to tap into the positive attributes that you have? There's two sides to us at this point. You're either going to talk about how great and how beautiful everything is for you and how you feel about you, or you're going to down yourself and talk negatively about yourself. And that's in itself going to tell you how much shadow work you need to do, okay? If it was hard for you to tell yourself, to write down positive things, you have a good amount of shadow work, because whatever stops you from loving you is an issue, is a root problem in your life. You got to find out where that root is, what it is, and pull it out once and for all. I'm all about talking about our root problems, the problems that stem like a root of a tree. Okay, so I'll give an example. All right, I'm doing a healing session for a client, and in doing the shadow work, I go from the womb to the age that they currently are, and finding like I'm looking for the root. Stop it, you guys. I'm looking for the root issue, because the root issues branch off and make other issues. Okay, but there's always that core, that root that started it all. And you cut out the root like a weed. Cutting out a weed, if you do not pull out the roots, what happens? It grows back. It grows right back. And you don't want that. So I try to find the roots in the issues. And then when you can get to that, that's when real healing can begin. Because you can have like side effects from the root problem. Like, for example, somebody that was molested at age 5 may 5 through 8 may have a root issue. That is their root issue. But what stemmed from that is not feeling heard, feeling like they have to keep their throat chakra closed, they can't speak their truth, they don't feel important, they don't feel enough, and they don't really have any boundaries because of that. All of that are the branches of that root problem. You understand? All right. So also, to learn more about who you are, look at what psychologist Carl Jung said, says about the shadow self. First, he emphasized that our unconscious minds are fragmented into selves, and I 100% believe that. These selves are selves, S-E-L-V-E-S. I know I got a mask on. Are different ourselves, okay? They're divided into parts based on a model that he came up with called the archetype model, okay? These parts of you are responsible for organizing your experiences in life. 2 of the major archetypes you should be aware of are your persona and shadow self. Let's find out briefly who your personal self is, okay? The persona can be seen as your mask, okay? The mask that you wear sometimes for people, okay? The part of you that you love to show others. Simply put, who you want people to see you as. In contrast, the shadow self is the real you, okay? Now, let's get into that real quick. Your shadow self. So let's take like a quick little gentle stroll through the shadow, okay? Through your shadow. Firstly, you must be aware of your shadow. What is this shadow self? And it can consist of repressed ideas, instincts, weaknesses, desires, perversions, embarrassment. The shadow is the side of your personality that contains all the parts of yourself that you do not want to admit having, okay? I've seen, had a client who had sexual assault as a child. And so she grew up having very perverse and unusual sexual habits, okay? That is something that is part of her shadow self. You understand? All right, so let me add that it's also, you know, that unconscious part of you that you can only recognize through self-awareness and effort. A lot of times we do not really even admit that we really have a shadow self, but we have to do the work, and we'll find her or him. We will find him or her. Trust me, okay? So now try to look at what you jotted down earlier about yourself. Do they reflect your shadow self? Can you find your shadow self in what you wrote down? Okay, you can comment below. We're getting somewhere, okay? We're getting somewhere. So let me also help you with another honest statement, okay? Your shadow self isn't always negative, okay? It's not always negative. It's based on your perception of what you feel is dark and frail about yourself, okay? It's the perception that you may have led you to repress them in the first place, okay? Um, and all of this also, too, it depends on your perception of life and your level of self esteem. Okay? But one thing you must understand is that everyone has a shadow. Even the nicest guy or girl on the block, the most great lady um, in your town has a shadow. Mother Teresa had a shadow. We all have a shadow, okay? Um, so the next thing I want to go over is that, like, here's some examples of the shadow self, okay, that I want to give you. There's the egotistical shadow. Um, this one you might struggle to accept, um, and feeling judged. And so another one is like the neurotic shadow and the untrustworthy shadow. There's a lot of different shadows, okay? Um, a lot of different aspects to the shadow, and it depends on your experiences and what you've gone through. We all have a shadow, something that threatens us, something that stemmed from the moment was when we first walked into the classroom and every kid laughed at us, something that stemmed from when we experienced our first painful rejection from someone we were in love with, something that stemmed from our first heartbreak, an abusive parent, a bully, a loss. Do not feel alone, and do not suppress it anymore. The more you suppress, the bigger the shadow self becomes. Okay? Um, so, the next thing I want to go over is one second. Okay, so I'm going to try to cut this short. I'm not trying to do this for a whole hour. I don't think anybody would watch it for a whole hour. um, However, so, like, your unconscious part includes, like, feelings you have repressed, fears and desires you may have hidden, automatic skills, extreme perceptions, automatic reactions, and complexes, okay? How does the shadow think? All right. You know what the shadow is now. Okay. So it's time to learn something more, how it thinks. Okay. By understanding how your shadow thinks, you'll further enhance your path. Okay. To victory and getting the best out of yourself. But remember, this, as you learn about how the shadow thinks, you can't be afraid of your shadow because it is part of who you are, and you can't be afraid of yourself. So it's time to really just embrace you. The more that you embrace it, okay, even if you are, like, bad things come up and you realizing bad things, okay, embrace it. You may not like it. You may not like some of the ugly parts of yourself, but if you don't deal with them, they're going to stay ugly and stay buried and stay boom, boom, bow and bothering you all the time. And who wants that anymore? 2021 has been a hellhole, okay? And we want to get out of that. We want new energy. So that is why I'm trying to do this shadow work course before the end of the year so that anybody that watches this is equipped with the power to start and begin to heal themselves on a really deep level, okay? Who that's watching still to this point has tried therapy, tried this, tried that, and it didn't work? If you're still watching this and listening to me jabber, then you're one of those people that not everything you've tried has worked, okay? That is because you're trying things without focusing on you, on really getting to all of the core problems that you've had to deal with, that you've pushed aside. Who here has had a horrible childhood and has just pushed all that to the side and kept it moving. That stuff comes back up. It shows up in your relationships. You have mistrust and all kinds of issues. So my point is, it's time to deal with your shit. Okay. So your shadow is a being, okay? We have established that. Your shadow speaks and acts spontaneously. It has a voice. You've often said things that portray a certain personality trait that you have one day argued that it never existed inside of you. Many of us have, okay? For instance, we may have said to someone, "Oh, I'm not a bigot," or "I'm not proud or hateful." However, sometimes we subconsciously say or do things that portray the opposite. We may think bigotry, okay, but we won't admit that to someone. We may be racist, but we won't admit that, okay, because it's not right. We push it down. Racism is wrong, but I'm just giving it as an example, as something that's a negative thing that you will y'all get what I'm saying, okay? So remember this, the thoughts that flow from your shadow are, let's just say, unlimited. They're unlimited. They're not stopping, okay? So some of phrases that you may have thought or even said that are your shadow speaking, I'll give you some, okay? I think I'm better than most people, all right? I think I'm better than most people. I think I'm worse than most people. I hate men. They're all bad. I think that women truly are inferior sex, okay? They say they don't need men, but I feel they would do horribly without us, okay? My pain is more significant than the pain of other people. I wish that there were, I don't like that one. I should have more money. I love manipulating men into giving me what I want. That is a shadow. That is a shadow, okay? I wish that my mom had died instead of my dad. Ugly part of ourselves, okay? So that what I'm saying is, a lot of times your shadow self isn't a lot of the things that you say out loud. It's what you think up here. And what you think and what you speak directs your energy flow to self, period, okay? So I will leave you with this. You are what you think about, okay? So this week, I want you to start asking yourself, who are you? All right? And start identifying with what your shadow is, who your shadow is, okay? That's really figuring out who you are. Some shadow traits that you may have, okay, are anger outbursts, fits of rage, envious or jealous, being manipulative or exploitive, okay, being selfish or self-centered, being obsessed with your appearance, all right, or being obsessed with how others perceive you. Like, oh, I can't go to Target just in sweatpants, because people are gonna what will they say, So if you're getting dressed and getting the makeup on and all of that, I can't go out looking like that because people would. That's your shadow. That's your shadow. Okay. Intolerant, being judgmental, being really gossipy, defensive, overly competitive, and extremely stubborn. So these are parts of the shadow that you want to work on. So this week, I would like for you to, and I will do another video. I was meant to do it yesterday, but I got sidetracked and busy, so with other things. But on Mondays, Sundays or Mondays, I will post each video and other stuff. But so lastly, I'm trying to keep this at 30 minutes. Ways to do shadow work, okay? Yes, journal prompts, okay? These help if you know where to start. Okay, if you don't know where to start with your shadow work, the first thing to do is figure out who you are and how much shadow work you have. You know, what are the issues? And write those down. Okay, write those down, because those are the things that we'll work on throughout this month. You know, even write down your goals of what you would like to accomplish this month for yourself. Now, remember, I'm not doing any of this. You are, okay? I am only leading you beautiful horses to a beautiful pool of healing water. If you want to drink from it, please do so. If you don't, stay thirsty. All right. Another way to do shadow work, okay, is to, and it's my method, okay? I haven't seen it in any books. I haven't seen it on Pinterest or anywhere. Is the chronological method, all right? And I start from birth on up. Were you even wanted when you were a baby? Because that energy carries. People don't understand that. That energy carries. Like I said, I have no problem using me as an example. My father beat my mother many times in her pregnancy, threw her out of a moving car at 7 or 8 months pregnant, kicked her down a flight of stairs, beat her. So do you not think that my soul felt that? I didn't have the parents putting the music on and singing to the belly and having that kind of like that life. You know what I mean? I was born into like chaos and fuckery. And that has an effect on our soul. We hear when we're in the womb, okay? So you can start doing your shadow work like that, trying to find the root problems. And we're going to go through the month. We're going to like work through some of this. But this week I want to start small. I want you to figure out what your shadow self looks like. What are the things that you're hiding? And the beauty of this is that nobody needs to know, okay? Because a lot of people are ashamed to even do their shadow work because it's hard to face that. But I'm going to tell you, if you don't face your shit, it'll only grow to the point where one day it's going to come crashing down on you all at once. It did for me. It did for me. And I don't want that for anybody that I can help. So, who are you? Well, what does your shadow self look like? What are the things that are negative that you hold on to? What are some of the thinking that you hold on to that is negative that you maybe want to let go of and not have it anymore? It's not like we all want this, okay? We don't want to be negative. We don't want to be hanging on to pain and anger and resentment and frustration. You know, if you were ever felt like you were not loved enough and not nurtured enough and all of that, it's time to deal with it. All right, let's not bring this into 2022. Okay, so who's with me on this journey? Let me know if you have any questions. Comment below if you're interested in following me for this journey, because if I don't have any interest, I'm just going to stop. Like, I'm not going to like do it for nobody. But I'm very into helping you. So if you're committed, I'm going to match your commitment. Okay? All right. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the week. If you have any questions, let me know. Put a comment down below. Many blessings to you all. Have a good week.